Hello, welcome to JIBRIN Angle on OWELEKETV. My name is JIBRIN, and this is my angle. Thank you once again for joining me on this monologue. In this monologue today, we shall be talking about a very important personality. There is a video, I think it was interviewed, very brief interview, granted the press, and I think that video is what I intend sharing with you guys. And after the video, I shall also share my thought about what I feel about this man. So let's go.
Well, God is God of peace. I think that's the first thing we have to understand. And God of peace, one, He has created this world as world for peace. And if you go back to Genesis, everything that God created was good. Everything. And what made it bad? Human greed, human selfishness, human ignorance, human lack of fear of God, human lack of consideration for others. And it even got to a stage that God said He regretted creating human beings on earth. But despite the regret, God provided salvation. He provided succor. Now, what do we have to do to have peace? To be close to God. So when you talk of the men of God, pastors, priests, bishops, archbishops, they should never stop being close to God and praying to God. I believe that God has not created Nigeria as a basket case. No, God has given us all that we need. I tell the joke about God creating Africa and the leader of Nigeria and the different leaders in Africa were in the presence of God. And God created Egypt. He put the Nile. And it was going like that. When he got to Nigeria, he created Nigeria. He put two rivers, Benue and Niger, and Niger. Now, there are not too many countries in which God did that. Then he went on to the soil. He put oil, he put tin, he put other minerals. And then he went to the coast. He put beautiful coast, put plenty of fish, and then Archangel Michael said to God, "Hey, you are doing too much here." And God laughed and said, "Well, don't worry. You will see the people of this country. They will mess it all up." So what God has given to us, we have messed it up. It's not the fault of God. But then, if we call the name of God and we go humbly before God and we really show remorse and pray to God, God will heal our land. And God, who has created Nigeria to be a land flowing with milk and honey, will make us accomplish.
All right. I hope you heard that was President Olusegun Obasanjo, the former president of Nigeria, who ruled Nigeria between 1999 and 2007. So he ruled for 8 years. This is a man who was one-time head of state as a military leader. I think he ruled Nigeria also from 1977 to, I think, 78 to 1977. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Gowon ruled for 9 years, within 1976 or so. So I think Obasanjo ruled between 1976 and 1980. Yeah, 1976 and 79. I think, yeah, he ruled for about 3 years and handed over to a democratically elected president, President Shehu Shagari. Now, why I am making this monologue is just to point out something about former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Honestly, this is a man people don't, when he came back as the democratically elected president. A lot of people had some kind of a level of disdain for him. And but even at then, I wasn't among those people. I've always respected this man. Obasanjo, all he said here, he actually preached the word. There's no doubt about that. He preached the word, but what he said exactly is just, even though he was being sarcastic by a kind of playing the mind of God, a sort of honestly, I think it's the reality. Because obviously, God knows what, by what he explained. He obviously is admitted that God is all-knowing God, the God that knows the future. Yes, of course, God created Nigeria. I've said that. I've made that statement. I've made that comment over and over again, and that such cannot be overemphasized. The blessings that God has given to Nigeria. Excuse me. I've said it over and over on this platform several times, that God blessed Nigeria with among the best human resources. Blessed Nigeria with among the highest number of mineral resources, both solid and liquid mineral resources. God bless Nigeria with a whole lot of resource. Name it. President Obasanjo just listed a very few of them. I wrote an article about this some years ago, but the number of solid minerals actually found in Nigeria on commercial quantity. I'm telling you, you can't believe it. That's not the purpose of this. Otherwise, I would have about 50 something of them on commercial quantity. Now, he said it all, and that's just the reality. God has blessed us with all these things, and here we are. Our leaders have messed it all up. Obasanjo, to his credit, let me be frank with you, in my opinion, if you want to, if in anybody's opinion as well, who really want to be objective and rational in his or her judgment, you will agree with me that Obasanjo is the best president Nigeria ever had so far. For those of you who are following me, who have been following me, I think I named Peter Obi as the best president Nigeria never had. I use that word "never had" very, very intentionally. For those of you who have been following me, you know the reason why I use that word specifically. Now, among the presidents that have really, really ruled Nigeria, Obasanjo, honestly, is the top. Now, he wasn't perfect. My judgment is based on what we had so far, all the presidents that have ruled us, both heads of states and civilian presidents that have ruled us, based on the record we have, our history. He is the best. It wasn't perfect, but honestly, he is the best. Now you will ask me how did I get to that point? It's sort of, I got to that point because the way I manner this man, I consider him as the most patriotic president we ever had. That's just the reality. Our founding fathers, people who say they were patriotic, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Ahmadu Bello, Obafemi Awolowo, all of them were selfish, self-centered. Honestly, they were not patriotic. I do not consider them as patriotic because they are the Tafawa Balewas, all of them. Our founding fathers are actually the reason behind what we are passing through today. They laid this foundation of tribalism and nepotism, everything that has to do with zim. They laid the foundation of this discord, the foundation of envy and jealousy against each other. They laid the foundation of corruption. Together with the West, they colluded with the West to lay this ugly, evil foundation. So I don't consider them, they were not patriotic. I don't consider them to be patriotic. When it comes to patriotism, honestly, Obasanjo, I rate him as the most patriotic president we ever had. Go through his 8 years. Honestly, first, okay, let's go back to his military era. The military era, he actually handed over leadership of the country when it was not lucrative to do. It was not the in thing to do at that time. It was not in vogue. Honestly, when no one expected him to hand over. He handed over power even at the peak of enjoyment of this power. He handed over power when power was most lucrative, most interesting, most tempting. So, and this man didn't loot the nation. We all know how President eventually became poor after several years. So that was number one manifestation or exhibition of patriotism. Now he came back the second time as a civilian head of state. We all know what happened and how he actually held the country together. I remember that time during this Sharia, we had this issue of religious crisis in the north, kind of spreading around the north or whatever, and how this man handled this whole. He handled the entire crisis with wisdom, with immense wisdom and understanding. This man is a president that actually knows everything about this country. He's the president that actually demonstrated the knowledge and understanding of the Nigerian dynamics, the dynamism that is associated to this country, the complexity of this country called Nigeria and its people. Obasanjo actually tried his best. He was the only president who actually tried his best to keep Nigeria together, Nigeria and Nigerians. His entire cabinet, just go through his cabinet, you will see a kind of a pan-Nigerian kind of cabinet. His cabinet was a cabinet of patriotism. Who is who in his cabinet, actually, he's a Yoruba man, but his think tank. The think tank of his government were actually from the east. We have your Konjo Whalers, the Obieze Kwesili, the Dora Akunyele, the what's his name, Charles Soludo. These are technocrats. We have then the people again. These are people that these were his kind of kitchen cabinet members. We have the Rufai them. These were people close to him. So Obasanjo was actually very, very fair to everyone. He tried to unite this country. Apart from that, he did it locally and did it internationally. Obasanjo traveled all around the world just to make a kind of persuade and convince international community to respect Nigeria again. He went around the world rebuilding the image of the country. And during his time, Nigeria actually regained its glory. We all know these are not things. Look, if you want to be fair, you will agree with me that this man's government was the most patriotic. Obasanjo tried all his best to hold Nigeria and keep Nigeria together. He played fair. And apart from that, he was the only president. Can you imagine all the debt that the previous government, especially the military government like Babangida, Buhari, Abacha, whatever. Now, Abacha too tried. There's no doubt about that. But that's for another day. So all those debts accumulated before he came in external debt. I think that was about $12 billion then. Obasanjo for the first time in the history of Nigeria, cleared our debts and made us to owe $0. We owed $0. That was how he handed over our economy to Yaradua. He did everything to clear all those things. And look, this man is the most patriotic. He was so people were against him when he came up with this third term. I wasn't against him when he came up with this because I knew quite right that man was trying, because he knew that 8 years was not good enough, was not enough for him to actually lay a solid, established foundation for the country. He needed more time because he was actually towards something, working towards something. He needed additional 4 years to kind of solidify it and entrench what he started. Unfortunately, Nigerians didn't see it that way. Nigerians saw it as a different thing, from different perspective, from different angle. We saw it as being someone who was power, not forgetting that this man, we refuse to actually judge and read him by his antecedents. Now, look at, here we are today. For God's sake, after that, are we better, right? Are we better now? We are obviously not better. Obviously not better. Far, 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 far not being better. That is far from it. So the reality is, this man, honestly, he has said it all. And this man can never be more right. I love this man. I respect him. And Nigerians should respect him as well. Because he deserves a very, very serious honor. And since he left government, people, even though when at every misrule from successive government since he left, he had always criticized. He had always been at the limelight, criticizing bad leadership. He's never been scared. He has never patronized anyone. He's been very, very vocal, very frank, and very statesmanly. Unfortunately, people, whenever he does that, people just go and attack him using his administration, what he did and what he did not do, whatever. And I don't know. Like I said, he wasn't perfect. He wasn't a perfect president, but as far as I'm concerned, he was the most patriotic, and he did much more because he had the intention, the good intention of this country to move the country forward, to actually grow the country. And that is just the reality. So, unfortunately, this country is in a mess compared to 2007, that when he stepped down, when his term, 8-year term, got exhausted. It's unfortunate, so fortunate. May God bless this man, a wonderful man, a man that is, I think it's almost 90 years now, but he doesn't look it, he doesn't feel, he doesn't. You see him living a very happy life, living a life of contentment or whatever. And again, he didn't embezzle money, for God's sake. There's no doubt when he left, he became richer, but the kind of rich we are talking about, we compared to the Jonathan and Jonathan Buhari regime or whatever, this man was not, he didn't loot Nigeria's resources. And remember, during his time, corruption was not this entrenched, was not this deep, because he at least he fought corruption more than any other government. I think he was the one who introduced the EFCC, ICPC. This man had good intention. He wanted Nigeria to be good. He tried his best to actually minimize corruption, and his regime, in his administration, actually, it was very minimal. People were conscious. It was only at his administration prosecuted. During his administration, former IG of police, sitting IG of police was prosecuted. A sitting Senate president was prosecuted, was first of all impeached and prosecuted. I think Senator Wabara, right? Yes. Under him, only in his government, he was the only one that actually called to account some corrupt and really high personality that were corrupt, or personalities that were corrupt. So, honestly, if you want anyone who wants to be objective and rational, honestly, you will agree with me. There's no doubt about that. This man is a great man. He's a patriot. And I love him so much. May God bless him and continue give him more strength and health to live longer. I don't know if he wants to live longer because 90 years is it's no joke. He has tried, honestly. And he's still looking strong. I remember I watched him, was it a few days ago, where he was to speak to, he mounted the podium, was to speak to the people on in an event. And something fell. I think a paper fell. Somebody wanted to help him to, for where the man just, honestly, the way he bent and picked that paper himself swiftly. He bent, not slowly, he didn't stoop, bent at his age, almost 90 years. That man, that God has really blessed that man. And of course, he deserves God's blessing because the man is just a lovable man. That's just the reality. And thank you once again for being with me up to this moment. And remain blessed.